Charlie's heart couldn't allow anyone to commit a crime before his eyes, especially since, according to his analysis, the crime drama was perpetrated by the Su family elders. He wouldn't hesitate to help the person who truly loved his father, Aunt Leona. The act of catching up with Star had to be done by helicopter. Viewers, please stay tuned for this increasingly exciting story. The pursuit begin. Thank you.
Chapter 2436. At the same time, a helicopter has left the urban area and hurried towards the mountainous area outside the city. On the plane, Isaac was reporting to Charlie, "Master, the target is still 10 kilometers away from us in a straight line. Since their car can only travel in curves in the mountains, we should be able to catch up soon." Charlie nodded, and said, "I have one more question I don't understand." Isaac hurriedly asked, "Master, what is the problem?" Charlie said, "I don't understand what Shred left behind. He made such a big move. I believe that although there are no police chasing after him, but every intersection ahead there should have been a police ambush. No matter how expensive the Rolls-Royce he drove, it was nothing more than a car. In this case, he could not escape even with his wings." "Yes." Isaac nodded and said in agreement, "Perhaps this gangster Shred didn't want to escape at all. He was originally a grade A wanted criminal. If he is caught, he will definitely be unable to escape, so it is better to live his own old man life, earn a settling allowance from the Su family for his wife, children, and grandchildren." Charlie smacked his lips. "What you mean is that Shred has already reported his determination to die, and he is not ready to escape alive, right?" "Yes," Isaac said. "I think this possibility is the greatest." Charlie shook his head and said, "If he is really going to die, then he shouldn't have to spend such a big setback to perform such a play. He only needs to find an excuse and reason in the treasure pavilion and treat Leona as and just kill the hostages, so why bother to have a Rolls-Royce running here non-stop?" Isaac thought for a while. Is he going to do a full set of drama? Is it necessary? Charlie said lightly, "He will be dead soon, and there are going to be so many scenes before death. What's the point? If he just wants to confuse the audience and let everyone not suspect that the Su family is in the killing so many hostages in the pavilion, just a little bit of the muzzle can kill Leona, and everyone will not doubt it." Isaac asked, "Master, what do you mean is that Shred has a way to escape?" Charlie sneered, "I am still not sure whether Shred really has a way to escape, but what I can be sure of is that if it's the Su family who promised him the help to escape, then the Su family will not let him live." Isaac hurriedly asked, "Master, if you say so, then the Su family must be ready to kill Shred?" "Yes." Charlie nodded lightly and said, "I think from the perspective of the Su family's behavior, they will definitely avoid nights and dreams, so they will definitely solve Shred as soon as possible within a reasonable range." Isaac thought for a while, and said, "The place that Sus family would choose should be this section of mountain road with no exit." Charlie gave a hum, and said, "Speed up. Lock them as soon as possible." "Okay, Master." After another few minutes of flying by the helicopter, Isaac pointed to a black car on the road diagonally ahead and said, "Master, lock that car. It's the black stretch car below." Charlie lowered his head and glanced, and he found Isaac's Rolls-Royce. However, due to the high altitude, the Rolls-Royce looked not even as big as a fingernail. At this time, Isaac asked him, "Master, should we descend to catch up?" Charlie waved his hand. "No, so as not to startle the snake, follow him from a distance to observe." At this moment, Shred didn't know that Charlie had locked him firmly from the sky. While driving intently, he stared at the navigation from time to time. The navigation shows the distance, the scheduled tunnel, and there it is, less than 5 kilometers. The current speed is about 180 kilometers per hour, and it only takes 2 minutes to arrive at the destination. Thinking of this, Shred was so excited that he couldn't bear it. As the tunnel got closer and closer, he became more excited, couldn't help but step on the accelerator deeper, and the speed of the car rose a little faster. As he approached the tunnel, he saw that on the right side of the road ahead, there were a number of relatively slow trucks running one after the other. He glanced at the license plate and felt more relieved. The 2 trucks in the front are the ones arranged by the Su family. These 2 cars have been driving on the road at low speed, just to determine the time to reach the tunnel based on Shred's location. Because according to the plan of the Su family, after Shred's vehicle enters the tunnel, the two vehicles would collide behind him, at the entrance of the tunnel. In this way, two trucks collided with each other, which can directly block the road of the two-lane road, and the vehicles behind will be stuck, making it impossible for a while to move ahead. In this way, Shred will win enough time. The vehicle driven by Shred soon surpassed the two trucks. At this time, there was only 1 kilometer left at the entrance of the tunnel. Shred took care of the trucks behind him, because he knew that no matter how many trucks there were behind him, if the two leading cars collided, they would be blocked behind him. At that time, this highway will be completely cut off. However, when Shred had already driven the car into the tunnel, the two trucks at the front did not intend to cause an accident. On the contrary, they all started to speed up in an instant, accelerating and rushing into the tunnel. As the two trucks entered the tunnel, several vehicles behind the two trucks suddenly collided at the entrance of the tunnel, and the entire road was immediately blocked by the crashed cars. The Su family is ready to kill people. These two trucks are accelerating continuously, each of which is loaded with dozens of tons of goods, and its inertia is large enough to completely destroy any family car. At the exit of this tunnel, two trucks blocked the way. In this way, Shred's Rolls-Royce became a can of human flesh surrounded by 4 trucks. With no entry and no retreat, this Rolls-Royce has only one end, that is, being hit by 2 heavy-duty trucks into a pile of scrap iron. At that time, the people in the car will never survive. Shred will die, and his 2 abductees too. At the same time, Charlie was on the helicopter and saw the car enter the tunnel. He also saw the 2 trucks at the back follow in. Then, he saw several cars collided at the tunnel entrance. Charlie could tell at a glance that these cars had crashed into each other on purpose. So he immediately said to Isik, "These trucks should be closing the road. I think they are going to do this in this tunnel. Go to the other side of the tunnel immediately." Isik didn't dare to hesitate and blurt out, "Okay, young master. Let's get down to the height and dive straight over." At this moment, Shred in the tunnel suddenly discovered that the road ahead was blocked by 2 container trucks parked side by side. He immediately realized that the time had come. Because according to the plan, he was supposed to kill Liona and Zhiyu in the car here, and then the Su family would disguise the 2 of them as they pushed open the door from a high-speed car and fell to death. As for Shred himself, him and the vehicle will be loaded into the container truck and taken away. In this way, the outside world would think that the mother and daughter died when they jumped out of the car in the escape attempt, while Shred himself continued and escaped. So, Shred slowed the vehicle to a stop, raised his pistol and turned around, and said to Liona and Zhiyu, the mother and daughter sitting in the back of the car, "Sorry, 2 beauties, I want to send you off on the road together." "What?" Liona said in a panic, "The Su family came for me, but it has nothing to do with my daughter. Please let my daughter go." Zhiyu also panicked, and blurted out, "If you want to kill me and let my mother go." Shred frowned in astonishment, and looked at Liona and asked, "How did you know that it was the Su family? Did you get any information in advance?" Zhiyu hurriedly said, "There must be some misunderstanding here. My surname is Su and I belong to the Su family. The current Su family's patron is my grandfather. The Su family cannot kill me. There must be something in it. Some misunderstanding, I beg you to call and confirm with them." Shred sneered and said, "I have confirmed it a long time ago. What they want is the lives of both of you. You are indispensable, so you don't have to intercede for each other. Things have developed to this point. I can't drop any of you." With that said, Shred pointed to the 2 container trucks blocking the way in front, and said with a smile, "And you don't have to try to open the doors and escape. These people have been prepared for nothing. They are going to get yours lives. You 2 fell into my hands, I can at least give you a happy one, but if you fall into their hands, I guess they will treat you directly as adult meat bowling, causing your brains to explode a terrible death." When Zhiyu heard this, she cried and lost her voice, "Mom! Why did Dad and Grandpa do this?" Liona held Zhiyu in her arms, held back her tears, choked up and said, "Zhiyu, I'm sorry, Mom, it's your mother who brought this to you." Shred pointed his gun at Liona and said lightly, "White-haired people shouldn't be sent to black-haired people, so I just wrong you and go ahead." Liona knew that she was definitely in danger this time, she just felt very sorry for her daughter, and was full of guilt for her. At this moment, she has accepted her fate, rubbing Zhiyu's head, crying and saying, "Zhiyu, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Don't blame Mom. Zhiyu also cried sadly and said, Mom. I don't blame you. Shred couldn't help sighing. Oh, it's a pity to kill two such beautiful beauties, but I have no way to survive. I can only let you two die for my own survival. With that, he was ready to pull the trigger to kill Liona first. But at this moment, he turned around to look at the back seat, and suddenly through the rear glass, he saw two groups of dark shadows coming quickly. He glanced intently and couldn't help exclaiming, FCK. What the hell is going on? Don't they know if the two of them are blocking the road behind? Why did they both rush in? Shred clearly saw that the two black shadows rushing right behind the Rolls-Royce were the trucks that were supposed to cause a car accident at the tunnel entrance and seal the intersection. These two cars are fast, and they are driving side by side, completely occupying the entire road. Now that they are getting closer and closer to the Rolls-Royce driven by himself, there is no intention to stop. Shred was shocked by this. After all, he is a person with a strong sense of anti-reconnaissance, so he immediately realized that a major change had happened. He thought nervously in his heart, before this, the whole thing was proceeding in accordance with the plan made by me and the Su family. Including me being discovered by the police, including me being chased into Treasure Pavilion, including me taking the woman and girl as hostages, and even including me taking the two of them to flee, everything did go according to the original plan. However, only the two trucks in front of us have a major deviation from the original plan. They too shouldn't be here. These are now rushing towards them at such a fast speed. At first glance, this is not a good sign. Shred is not a fool. He watched the news and videos of major car accidents on TV. Knowing that trucks traveling at high speeds are simply the most lethal vehicles on the ground. A truck of hundreds of tons rushes at a speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour, and even a tank may not be able to handle the impact. If it's a car, it will be knocked out directly. What's more terrifying is that there is no way to escape before this FC King thing. If the front is unobstructed, with the power and acceleration of Rolls-Royce, these two big trucks can only eat farts in the back. However, the road ahead was blocked by two other trucks, and there was nowhere to escape. Seeing that the two large trucks were getting closer, Shred's eyes were split in anger, and he couldn't help but gritted his teeth and cursed, DMN. I didn't expect the Su family to be so untrustworthy. They let me kill you too. They also wanted to kill me too. The Su clan makes it a great way to unload the grind and kill the donkey. Zhiyu thought that Shred would directly shoot her and her mother. But she didn't expect that Shred suddenly looked at the rear windshield and scolded the Su family with a look of resentment. So she turned her head subconsciously and immediately saw the two large trucks getting closer and closer. With her IQ, she understood the situation almost immediately. She smiled bitterly and said to Shred, "You knew that the Su family would even kill you. You should have thought that they would never let you live and go away like that." Shred looked desperate and murmured, "You are right. I was completely FCKED by the Su family as a gunman." After that, Shred suddenly became very irritable, crying and cursing, "What the H3LL are you stupid family? Since you are a mess, at least the morality of the world is always going to be untrustworthy forever." Quote, Zhiyu sneered and said, "You are a murderer who can take the lives of others by taking other people's money. What are you talking about?" Shred immediately scolded, "Damn, FC King with me, believe it or not, I will shot you to death." Zhiyu smiled miserably, and said without concession, "Just shoot and give me a good time. It's much better to be shot to death by you than to be hit by a truck into a can of meat and then die a painful death." As soon as Shred heard this, his face paled in shock. Although he is a gangster with many life-threatening experiences, he is also afraid of death and pain. If he is really like the dead in a major car accident, and then slowly dies after being hit, then he would rather prefer to die simply. Zhiyu saw that he was already completely panicked, and his expression was full of contempt, and said coldly, "Why, you usually kill people like Numb, but now you are afraid of death." Shred ignored Zhiyu's ridicule at this time, and blurted out, "Aren't you afraid of death?" Zhiyu said coldly, "If I am mortal, what's the use of being afraid? Can you escape if you are afraid?" Shred was silent for a moment. Zhiyu was right. In this situation, there is no chance to escape. If you can't drive past, it will be worse if you get off. If the human body is directly run over by an overloaded truck, it will basically become muddy. Zhiyu said at this time, don't you have a bomb on your body? Just detonate it. That way, death can alleviate a little pain. Shred smiled bitterly. I don't have any FC King bombs, all the FC King are fake. As he said, he picked up the detonator, pressed it several times, and said bitterly, look, there is no reaction at all. Zhiyu did not expect that this shred would be rubbish from the beginning to the end. When she thought that she and her mother would be buried in this tunnel because of this person, she felt 10,000 in her heart. However, at this moment, she also realized that she and her mother had no chance of escaping from birth, leaving a window of life for her, and there were dozens of seconds at most. At this moment, she could already feel the strong vibration caused by the two overloaded trucks driving at high speed. At this moment, her arms tightly hugged Liona beside her. At the same time, Charlie's helicopter had swooped down and appeared on the other side of the mountain. The helicopter is constantly lowering its altitude over the tunnel entrance at this end, but as it gets closer to the ground, the pilot's descent speed has become more and more cautious. Just now, seeing that Rolls-Royce entered and two big trucks rushing in, Charlie realized the other party's strategy. The Su family must have wanted to create a serious traffic accident and solve Liona, Zhiyu, and Shred all at once. In the tunnel, these three people would never have a chance to escape. Therefore, Charlie kept urging the pilot, go down faster. If you are slow, I'm afraid it will be too late to save people. The pilot blurted out, Master. There is a radar on the bottom of the plane to detect the distance between the fuselage and the ground in real time. Once the distance is within 20 meters, it will forcefully maintain the descent speed within a safe range. I don't think I can get it faster. Charlie looked at the ground, and the height was almost a dozen meters, not to mention, it was at least 5 stories high. If he follow this descent speed, he will have to wait at least 20 or 30 seconds before landing, so he immediately unfastened his seat belt, opened the hatch, and said to Isik, take someone to hold a gun at the tunnel entrance. Anyone who dares to support him release the bullets. Isik hurriedly asked, Master, are you going too? Before he finished speaking, Charlie had already jumped off the helicopter. For Charlie, although he had never jumped from such a high place, he continued to take a lot of rejuvenation pills to improve his physique, and he also has his aura as support. Therefore, he can be sure that with his current physical strength, there will be no problem jumping from such a high level. Really, Charlie leapt and fell heavily on the ground in the blink of an eye. Although his legs had withstood a huge impact in an instant, they were completely within the range of his body's bearing range. At the moment he landed, he did not dare to have any delay, and quickly rushed toward the tunnel entrance. At this time, he heard a huge impact suddenly coming from inside. Boom! At the moment when the impact sound reverberated in the tunnel, Charlie's figure could not help but stagnate for a moment. With such a huge movement, you don't need to look at how strong the impact is. Even a Rolls-Royce, with its sturdy build, can't hold up such a large force, and the people inside are probably too ugly. At this moment, Charlie felt very sorry. Although he has no friendship with Zhiyu, in the final analysis, he has no grudges against her at the same time. A young girl in her early 20s was brutally murdered by her family in such a cruel way. It is inevitable to feel regretful. In addition, Charlie showed more sympathy to Liona. Speaking of it, he had no contact with Liona, and unlike Zhiyu, at least he had saved her and her brothers lives in Japan. However, because Liona has been obsessed with his father for so many years, even this time she caused a murderous disaster for herself because she was unforgettable for his father. Therefore, the image of Liona is a bit more tragic in Charlie's mind. The man she loved did not choose her, and the man she chose had betrayed her for so many years. And she didn't forget that sweetheart who had been dead for many years, and even spent a lot of money to buy back the old house where she once lived. However, it was precisely because of her behavior that all of this was incurred to her. Therefore, how can he not be sympathetic to such a woman? Charlie couldn't help but feel annoyed in his heart. I knew so long ago, when I was in the treasures pavilion, I should have dealt with Shred. In that case, Liona and Zhiyu would not suffer this disaster. But, having said that, since the Su family wants their lives, what if I had killed Shred and saved them in the treasure pavilion? The Su family hides behind them, and they will still find other ways to kill them and kill Shred in the end. Thinking of this, Charlie couldn't help sighing. It seems that the mother and daughter should not have met such a disaster. However, in an instant, Charlie suddenly thought that he still had a few rejuvenation pills on his body. At the beginning, Orville was almost strangled to death and he used a rejuvenating pill to rescue him. If Liona and Zhiyu are still alive, they will be saved by him as well. Thinking of this, Charlie speeded up at his feet and rushed toward the inside of the tunnel. At this time, Isaac's Rolls-Royce was sandwiched by 4 large trucks in front and 2 behind. Because the inertia of the 2 large trucks behind was too great, the entire Rolls-Royce engine compartment had completely collided with the cockpit. The trunk was also knocked into the position of the rear seat. The original 5-meter-long car body has now been hit by the front and back and only half of its length is left. The visual effects of the scene can be said to be extremely tragic. In the cockpit, Shred's entire abdomen was squeezed into a pool of rotten meat by the invading engine compartment, and his head was protected by an air bag, so he didn't suffer any serious injuries. This caused him to suffer fatal injuries, but at this time he did not immediately suffocate. He just opened his mouth weakly, and constantly vomited a lot of blood, looking terrible. The mother and daughter in the rear seat have soft seat double wraps in the front and rear. The situation is better or less, but the internal injuries are also very serious. In a car accident, the most feared is internal injury. If any internal organs suffer a heavy blow and rupture, it will cause severe internal bleeding. If it's fast, people can die within a few minutes. There is almost no possibility of rescue. At this time, Liona had passed out directly, but Zhiyu was still sober. She felt her chest squeezed tightly by the front and rear seats, and it was almost impossible to see through. At the same time, there was pain everywhere in the body, and the whole person was extremely weak and incomparably painful. At this time, behind her, there was a sound of opening the door. The 2 large trucks that were hit by the main force behind had also been completely hit beyond recognition. However, due to the high-level cockpit, the driver was not injured. At this time, the 2 drivers pushed the door, jumped out of the cockpit, and went directly to Rolls-Royce to investigate the situation. In the 2 trucks used to block the road in front, 2 drivers also jumped down. The 4 came to the side of car and took a look. One of them exclaimed, "Captain, the eldest lady is also in the car." What? How could the eldest lady be in the car? The man who was called the captain was Stuart, the capable man who was most trusted by the Su family. Stuart's father was the personal guard of Old Sus. Later, his father got older and was not fit to continue the role of personal guard, so he inherited his father's mantle and became the personal guard of Old Man Su. At the same time, he is also the black glove of Old Man Su. Many dirty and bloody things were done by him personally on behalf of his master. This time, he was instructed by Mr. Su to follow the tragic death of the European princess and solve Liona. So he found Shred, who was running around through the channels of the underground world, gave him such a chance, and then tailored a whole plan for him. However, he only had told Shred to take Liona into the car as a hostage and bring her into this tunnel, but never dreamed that this Shred actually will bring the eldest lady Zhiyu into the car. In shock, he rushed over to check, and he saw Zhiyu also sitting in the back seat. At this time, Zhiyu's face was pale, with almost no blood, which made Stuart panic. At this time, Zhiyu also recognized Stuart and knew that this was the personal guard next to her grandfather, so she stared at him with an extremely resentful look. Stuart could be considered to have rushed over in a strong wind and waves, but at the moment when his eyes met Zhiyu, he suddenly panicked. He subconsciously dodged Zhiyu's eyes, then rushed to the side of the cab, and yelled hysterically at Shred, who was vomiting blood, "Shred name. Are UFC King crazy? Who made it? You brought the eldest lady in the car too. What the hell did I tell you back then? What did I tell you? I told you to take Liona alone. It's one person, not 2 people. Don't you have any brains?" After speaking, Stuart suddenly realized that something was wrong, so he asked with an angry expression, "Shred, UFC King, tell me the truth, who instructed you to bring the lady into the car too?" Shred was already at the end of his life. His eyes widened vigorously, his mouth was open with a spiteful face, as if he was saying something. Stuart immediately leaned his head over and shouted sharply, "What the hell are you trying to say? Say it loud." Shred weakly said in a mosquito-like voice, You what?" Stuart lost his patience and scolded, "UFC King, say it. What the hell are you saying? Shred was about to continue speaking, but he didn't fall up in one breath. He coughed violently, and sprayed blood all over Stuart's face. Stuart didn't care to wipe it, grabbed Shred's collar, and gritted his teeth and cursed, "UFC King say it. Come on, what the hell you did? Who guided you?" Shred tried his best, and said 4 words, "I am going to Japan." At this moment, Shred realized that he had been completely fooled by the Su family. Moreover, he was seriously injured and about to die now, and his life is only the last few minutes at most. Therefore, he is naturally full of anger towards Stuart, the Su family dog. Stuart was also shocked and scared right now. He just followed the father's instructions, imitated the European royal family, and used the same method to kill Liona. The European princess also had a car accident in the tunnel, and then died in Paris with her fiancé and the child in her stomach. A car accident in the tunnel is indeed a good way to cover people's eyes, so Stuart found Shred as a cog to perform the death scene according to his father's orders. Unexpectedly, the eldest lady Zhiyu was sitting in the same car as Liona. Stuart is not a fool. He knows that the old man loves Zhiyu the granddaughter most, and the entire Su family regards her as the jewel in the family crown. Now, Zhiyu is about to die. No matter how he explains to the old man or proves his innocence, cannot remove the bad label. At that time, the old man would be furious, and he doesn't know how he will be punished. Now, the damn Shred was so disrespectful to him, and he didn't even want to tell the whole story. This made Stuart angry. He immediately took out his gun and held it against Shred's forehead, shouting hysterically, "You! Who told you? If you don't tell the truth, I will send you to see the Lord right now." Facing the muzzle, Shred's expression was not afraid. He smiled tragically, showing his blood-stained teeth, and said coldly, "Okay, shoot. It is hurting your dad all over now, my dear son, hurry up. With that gun, help dad get free." "You!" Stuart was almost furious. He put the muzzle into Shred's mouth and sternly said, "Bad son, go to hell. After that, pull the trigger immediately." Boom! Shred suddenly shot out a cloud of blood mist from the back of his head, completely dead. At this time, Stuart saw that Zhiyu in the back row was so weak that he was about to lose consciousness, and hurriedly shouted, "Quick! Save the lady." One of them looked at the car which had been smashed into a mass of scrap metal, and said embarrassingly, "Captain, we don't have a device, and we can open these deformed frames. At least we have to have a large hydraulic shear, or a cutting device. Is it possible to disassemble the metal frame?" Stuart blurted out, "I don't care what the hell you do, hurry up and get the eldest lady out. Otherwise, if the master gets to know, none of us will be alive and all of us will be FC King buried." When the others heard this, they were shocked. Several people rushed forward and tried their best to get Zhiyu out of the deformed frame in order to rescue her from it. However, although these people are all top bodyguards, their true strength is far worse than that of martial arts masters. Compared with Ruoli, who has practiced internal martial arts since childhood, there is a certain gap. How could it be possible that the unarmed will have hit the deformed metal frame broke apart, but it was in vain. Just when Stuart used the strength of feeding milk but was helpless, Zhiyu insisted and said, "Don't save me, save my mother." Stuart's expression suddenly became very embarrassed, and he said, "Miss, I don't have such a big permission. The only decision I can make now is to rescue you and send you to the hospital as soon as possible." Quote, Zhiyu cried and shouted, "You call Chnegfeng. You tell him, if my mother can't be saved, I will not let him go as a ghost." Stuart said in embarrassment, "Miss, this kind of thing. I am a slaughter, there is no way to tell the old man, don't embarrass me. Now, the key is to rescue you." Zhiyu cried loudly and said, "I don't want you to save me. If you want to save me, save my mother first, or let me go with my mother." Stuart's men didn't know what to do next time. One of them asked, "Captain, what shall we do?" Stuart gritted his teeth and blurted out, "Don't care about so much, save the lady first." Zhiyu roared eagerly, "I want you to save my mother first." As she said, she felt a sharp pain in her whole brain, and she fainted suddenly. When Stuart saw this, he blurted out, "Quick! Find a way to get the lady out." At this moment, someone suddenly yelled, "Stop it all!" Stuart was taken aback by the shout. This tunnel is one-way traffic, and the entrance has been blocked by the accident cars. It stands to reason that no one should have come in. Therefore, at this moment, an unfamiliar voice suddenly appeared, which made him suddenly nervous. The same goes for the other 3 people. The 4 of them followed the source at the same time, and they saw a man with a cold expression, walking from the exit of the tunnel. This extraordinary man is Charlie. Stuart stared at Charlie and asked in horror, "Who are you?" Charlie said coldly, "Who am I? You are not qualified to ask. I now give the 4 of you a chance to survive. Put down the guns, squat on the ground with your head in your hands, and then give me an honest explanation one by one. Who made you do this?" Stuart gritted his teeth, pointed his gun at Charlie, and said sternly, "Boy, UFC King want to die." After speaking, he immediately pulled the trigger without hesitation. However, Charlie disappeared from his sight the moment the gun was fired. Just when he couldn't figure out his head, he suddenly felt a black shadow appear in front of him, and then, his gun-holding hand was firmly grasped by a pair of big hands. His eyes widened subconsciously, and before he could see the clear outline of the black shadow, he felt a sudden pain in his wrist. Immediately after that, he realized that his wrist had been broken. When the wrist broke, the gun on the wrist also fell directly to the ground. At this time, he saw clearly that he was the young man with an extremely arrogant attitude just now. He was shocked immediately, and he blurted out, "Who are you?" Charlie looked at him contemptuously and said coldly, "I said, you are not qualified to ask." After finishing speaking, he directly grabbed Stuart's neck and said coldly, "I'll give you another chance to tell me clearly who instigated you." Stuart hurriedly blurted out, "What are you 3 doing in a daze? Get rid of him." The other 3 were originally frightened by Charlie's skill and did not dare to act rashly. At this time, listening to Stuart's roar, they hurriedly took out the gun from their waists. However, before they could point their guns at Charlie, Charlie had already picked up Stuart and slammed him at the 3 of them. The 3 of them had no time to react, so Stuart along with them fell to the ground like a bowling ball. Because Charlie's strength was so great that the bodies of these 4 people had received huge and heavy blows. At this time, they had no ability to resist, they could only lie on the ground and howl. Charlie stepped forward to the 4 of them, took out his mobile phone and turned on the video recording, first took a picture of the surrounding situation, and then pointed the camera at the 4 of them, and asked in a cold voice, "Time to speak, what are you doing here? Who is behind all of this?" In fact, Charlie knew very well in his heart that the 4 people in front of him must be from the Su family. And they were sent by the Su family to perform such an important task, enough to show that the 4 of them must be the confidants of the Su family. Therefore, Charlie needs them to tell the whole story in front of the camera, and then make the video public. As a result, the reputation of the Su family is going to be completely rotten. You know, the Su family betrayed Ruoli before. This incident has greatly damaged the reputation of the Su family. He hopes that Master Su will finally push the eldest son Xin out of the black pot, but this account is not only recorded in Xin, in addition to his head, it was also written on the head of the entire Su family. If it breaks out again at this time that the Su family still wants to murder their own daughter-in-law, or even murder the Su family's own flesh and blood again, then the Su family will definitely become a rat crossing the street. Aside from other things, fame alone will not be able to stand up in this life. Old Man Su's confidant, Stuart and others, also knew that this matter was important. The death of a European princess in a car accident has yet to allow the people to grasp any substantive evidence. If there is evidence to confirm what the royal family did such a thing, the reputation of the entire royal family in the world would have completely ruined. Therefore, Stuart warned himself deep in his heart, in any case, I can't tell the truth about the whole thing, otherwise, not only will the reputation of Mr. Su be undermined, but I will also become a sinner in the eyes of Mr. Su. Thinking of this, Stuart said hurriedly, "Big brother, is there any misunderstanding in this matter? We are planning to save people." Charlie rushed forward, grabbed Stuart by the collar, and said in a cold voice, "Believe it or not, if you continue to talk nonsense with me here, then I will take you to the dog factory, one by one. I chopped you up and feed the flesh to the dogs. Or simply tie up your hands and feet and throw you directly into the dog cage for the dog to eat for 3 days and 3 nights. Stuart was frightened and numb all over his body, even from his scalp to his toes. Although he didn't even know who the young man in front of him was, he had no doubts what the young man said. From this young man's eyes alone, he can see the other party's determination. At this time, Charlie continued, "Don't worry, even if you want to die faster, I won't give you a chance. I'll put an iron cage on your head first to protect your head. Then use a bulletproof vest to protect your entire abdomen so that you won't die so easily." You. Stuart shuddered and blurted out, "Who are you? We have no grudges against you, why are you here? You have no grievances or animosity with me." Charlie sneered, "What did you plan in this city? Murdering others in the broad daylight, the methods are cruel and despicable, and everyone involved here punishable. Even if I kill you, I will do the way for heaven." Stuart insisted on a strong momentum, and said coldly, "Boy, we must first weigh our own abilities for the sake of heaven. Do you know who we are serving? If you annoy the boss behind us, even if you are the king, there is not enough space for you on earth to hide." Charlie sneered, grabbed Stuart's neck, and slapped with all his strength. This slap force was so powerful that he pulled it up at once, and directly beat his entire jaw into a comminuted fracture. Almost all the teeth in the mouth were directly broken by the huge force at this moment. Stuart hasn't been beaten for so many years in the society, but he has never suffered such a terrifying slap in the face. At this moment, he only felt that his mouth was completely painful to the point of numbness. At the end of the pain, he didn't feel the pain at all. He could only feel that the whole person was already stale, and the whole mouth was full of big and small hard particles. And the mouth was full of warm sweet smell, and there seemed to be dozens of bleeding wounds in his mouth. The blood instantly filled his mouth. Immediately afterwards, Stuart vomited out, his mouth full of blood mixed with dozens of broken teeth. This scene was shocking, and the other three people around him were in awe. They didn't quite understand why the young man in front of them was suddenly angry. Is it because the Captain Stuart's words are too pretending? Stuart was also directly confused. Seeing that there were no teeth left in his mouth, his whole person was on the verge of collapse, and he cried vaguely, You looking for death?" I am. Charlie sneered and interrupted him. "I know what you want to say, aren't you from the Su family of the capital city? Are you talking about this with me here? Do you really think I will be afraid of the Su family that is behind you?" Stuart said with a look of astonishment, The Su family is the first in the country, why are you not afraid?" Charlie laughed and said contemptuously, "Afraid? To tell you the truth, I and the entire Su family have antagonisms. Even if Chnegfeng pretended to be forceful in front of me, I would slap all his teeth, same as yours." Quote. After speaking, Charlie said, "Again, since you are a Su family dog, killing a few dogs like you can temporarily relieve my hatred." When Stuart heard this, he was even more desperate, and he thought to himself, this guy actually has a hatred against the Su family. I wanted to move out of Su. The big Buddha at home, in exchange for forgiveness from the other side, did not think that he had lifted a rock and hit his own foot. At this time, Charlie raised his volume a bit, and said coldly, "I will ask you again, do you want to say or not?" Stuart gritted his teeth and blurted out, "I say I'm dead, I don't say I am still dead. If I say it, the boss will not let my family go, so you should kill me." Charlie smiled. "I said, I won't let you die so easily, I will send you to the kennel and let you die slowly." At this moment, Isaac ran in with two of his men. He was a little relieved to see that Charlie had taken control of the situation. However, when he saw that Rolls-Royce that had been hit by the horrible crash, he couldn't help but feel terrible. Grabbing his heart, he asked, "Master, man, how is the situation?" Charlie said indifferently, "Shred is dead, the two ladies are seriously injured and unconscious, but the two of them won't die within a while." When Charlie came in, he had already used aura to investigate the injuries of the two females in the wreckage. Both of them are seriously injured. For the doctor, they should have lost the value and opportunity of treatment. If they can survive for an hour at most, they may die soon after. However, for Charlie, their injuries were not incurable. After solving the four people in front of him, giving half a rejuvenation pill for each of them, mother and daughter, would surely be saved. Isaac heard Charlie say that the two of them won't die for a while, knowing that Charlie must have a way to save them, so he was relieved. He checked the time and said, "Master, we have to hurry up." I heard that the people from the high-speed wrecking team have already started to clear the obstacles at the tunnel entrance at the back. They should be able to clear them in about half an hour, and the lane will be clear. Charlie nodded and said, I see, I can solve it all in 10 minutes. With that, he asked Isik, by the way, old man, can you get me some African hyenas? Huh? Isik was stunned, and blurted out, African hyena. What kind of African hyena? Charlie looked at the 4 men in front of him, and said coldly, it's the kind of African hyena that live in groups on the prairie and likes to dig their prey when hunting. Isik took a deep breath and blurted out, Master, what are you doing with that kind of dog? Charlie stared at Stuart and sneered, I want to add a new breed to Orville's kennel. It is full of ordinary fighting dogs, not very good for all the purposes. If you raise a group of African hyenas which like to dig their food, that must be an interesting sight. As soon as Charlie said this, Stuart and others trembled almost immediately. They didn't understand why the man in front of them was so vicious and wanted to torture them with African hyenas. Is he still a human being? How can he be so cruel? As a result, one of them couldn't bear it immediately, and cried and said, I'll say all. It didn't matter what he said, the other 2 people around him also hurriedly expressed their opinions, I'll speak too. Charlie nodded in satisfaction, okay, the 3 of you have this attitude. I will give you time later to explain in detail a little bit. After speaking, he looked at Stuart and sneered, it seems that your bones are very hard. I wonder if the African hyena can chew it. As soon as the voice fell, Charlie laughed self-deprecatingly, look at my memory. I forgot that African hyenas don't like to chew bones. They like to find a weak spot from their prey, and then use their teeth to attack that spot. It depends on whether you can hold it. Stuart's face was as pale as paper, and he was frightened. He also hurriedly cried and said, I'll say it. I'll say it all. Please be merciful. Charlie sneered, clicked on the phone's video recording, re-recorded a new video, and said, come on, let's introduce yourself first, and then elaborate on who is directing you to do this. Stuart endured the pain all over his body, and said, my name is Stuart. I am from the Su family, the captain of Chnegfeng's personal bodyguard, and I have been acting for him for nearly 20 years. This time, I came to this city to assassinate Chnegfeng Su's eldest daughter-in-law, Zin Su's wife, Ms. Liona. Charlie asked again, why did the old dog Chnegfeng assassinate Liona? Stuart's frightened eyelids throbbed wildly, and he thought to himself, this guy, where the hell does this guy come from? At all. He doesn't put the aloof old man Su in his eyes at all, and he said openly about him. It's an old dog, this. Is this guy really not afraid of death? However, doubts turned to doubts. Stuart now dare not disobey Charlie in any way. Therefore, he could only vainly say, this is because Chnegfeng is very dissatisfied with Liona. He feels that Liona is going to divorce Zin at this time when the Su family fell into the pit. What makes him even more unacceptable is that Liona actually came here at this time to cherish the memory of Mr. Chengdiang Wade of the Wade family, and even participated in public auctions to bid for the old house where that man lived. Chnegfeng felt that Liona had seriously damaged the reputation of the Su family, leaving the family dull and shamed, so he had the idea of cleaning the door. Charlie asked again, so how did Chnegfeng plan the whole thing? Stuart said hurriedly, Chnegfeng wanted to follow the European royal family's method of assassinating the well-known princesses by creating a car accident and killing Liona. So he found Shred and asked Shred to play a scene of being hunted down. Then he took the opportunity to hold Liona and let me in planning a car accident in the tunnel and killing Shred and Liona directly. Charlie sneered, oh. So, in order to kill Liona, this old dog, Chnegfeng, deliberately ordered Shred to tie up explosives on his body and took hundreds of people hostage. Speaking of this, Charlie's voice suddenly increased a bit, and he scolded, such an old dog is still not a human being. For his own benefit and for the little trouble in his own family, he is going to create a terrible incident with such a bad influence. Doesn't he take social security and the safety of the people's lives and property seriously in his eyes? As soon as Charlie said this, Stuart was immediately shocked. This guy, what is this guy going to do? Is he going to offend the Su family to death? He put such a hat on old Su now. Once this video is sent, then That old man Su will definitely become a bad start in the eyes of the people all over the country. When the time comes, the people above will definitely hold the Su family accountable, and may even impose severe punishment on the family. It is very likely that the Su family will suffer a heavy blow and vitality loss due to this incident. Thinking of this, Stuart immediately said with a trembling, this me. I can't say that. I'm just a commander, so I shouldn't guess what the old man meant. Stuart can only say so. He didn't dare to tag old man Su for Charlie. But he didn't dare to excuse old man Su in front of Charlie. Therefore, he can only answer in this seemingly neutral way, but actually throwing the pot away from himself. Charlie sneered. The whole thing, I believe that after the people across the country know the truth, they will have a clear judgment in their hearts. The incident that Shred rushed into the treasure pavilion with explosives today is already a clear fact. It is impossible to excuse the old dog Chnegfeng now. After that, he said coldly, this old dog, Chnegfeng, is simply a crooked animal. He had murdered his own granddaughter, Ruoli, the illegitimate daughter of Xin before, and then let Su be shameless. Xin is backing him, and now he wants to murder Xin Su's wife. It's just a repeat of the old trick. I believe that the broad masses of the people should be able to see this man's ugly face through. The Chnegfeng's deliberate plan to kill Liona. At the same time, he must clear his grievances for Xin. This man is really too miserable. The father wants to kill him. He killed his own illegitimate daughter, and now he will kill his wife again. Speaking of this, Charlie turned his head and said coldly, actually, this beast behavior done by Chnegfeng is far more than this one. As soon as the voice fell, Charlie immediately stood up and approached Rolls-Royce with the camera. He took pictures of Liona and Zhiyu who were seriously injured and unconscious, and said coldly, this old dog, Chnegfeng, for the sake of his own face, even knowing that his granddaughter Zhiyu was in the same car with Liona, he still did not rein in the precipice, and even asked his subordinates to kill Zhiyu and Liona together. Such an old beast is really a national S***. He deserves the worst of the punishment. When Stuart heard this, he blurted out in shock, no. It's not like that. Master didn't know that young Missy was also in the car. Charlie paused the camera directly, walked back to him, and slapped him over, just the FCK you have a mouth, don't you? At this time, you are thinking of defending the old dog. Stuart desperately said, I'm not justifying. I'm telling the truth. Master, he really didn't want to hurt the eldest lady, it was Shred. It was Shred who took the eldest lady without authorization. Charlie sneered and said, I don't care about this. Doesn't Chnegfeng, an old dog, likes to buckle a pot of shish tea for others. Today I will let him feel the feeling of being held down by someone else and buckled a shish tea. Stuart almost collapsed. He didn't expect Charlie to be so ruthless. He wanted to use this matter to directly blow up the reputation of old Su and the entire Su family. He can already foresee how infamous the Su family will be once this incident is exposed. This may be a huge catastrophe that the Su family has not encountered in decades. He subconsciously said, You can't reverse right and wrong like this. Charlie sneered and said, are you still worrying about your master now? Don't worry, I will delete the content you just used to excuse Chnegfeng old dog, and then publish the video. Then, the reputation of the Su family will be in the cesspool. You also have a contribution to this. Stuart was ashamed. Charlie ignored him and said to Isaac, send these 4 guys secretly to Orville's kennel for strict supervision. Isaac nodded immediately. Okay, master, I will urgently call 2 more helicopters and they will be there soon. Charlie said, also tell Orville, I will pay him 30 million in cash later. This money will be reserved for him to transform the entire kennel. The scale of the kennel will be expanded, the internal facilities will be strengthened and upgraded, and more importantly, a complete set of underground kennels should be built in the ground of the kennel. His kennel should also be expanded in scale and become an industry. It needs urgent upgrade now. Isaac couldn't help laughing out loud. He understood what Charlie meant. He said it was to upgrade the kennel. In fact, the main reason was that Charlie was sending too many people. If it is not upgraded, there will be more people on the kennel than dogs. So he immediately said, okay young master, I know, I will explain it to Orville later. At this time, another 8 men in black with live ammunition rushed in and came to Isaac's face and said respectfully, "Master." Isaac nodded and hurriedly told them, "You guys, tie up these 4 dogs one by one, take them out, and send them to Orville's kennel first." "Okay, master." Several people responded and immediately tied Stuart and other people like a grasshopper and led them out. Except Isaac, everyone else left the tunnel. Charlie had already arrived at the Rolls-Royce car at this time. Seeing Zhiyu and Liona who were in a coma due to serious injuries in the car, he sighed helplessly. Isaac sighed when he heard him, and hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Master, are you sighing because the 2 of them could not be saved?" Charlie shook his head. "I sigh because they still can be saved." Isaac asked puzzledly, "Master, since they can be saved, why do you still sigh?" Charlie sighed, "Hey, I sigh because I wanted to save Zhiyu again. This is the 2nd time I saved her life." Charlie said again, "I saved her twice, saved her brother once, saved her half-sister once, Zindat be it starred. There are 3 children in total, 3 children and mother saved 4 times. You say, what the H3LL is this?" Isaac also said helplessly, "Master, I believe you must also feel that the crime is not as good as your children. Although the older generation of the Su family is not a good thing, Zhiyu is indeed different from them." Charlie shook his head. "I actually have no contact with her, and I don't know much about it. I don't have any idea whether she is the same as Chnegfeng and Zin." Isaac said earnestly, "Master, Zhiyu has a good reputation in the city. She is talented and extremely studious, and she is humble. She has never put on the airs of a rich 2nd generation. As Su's parents' granddaughter, S identity has bullied anyone, you can save her." Charlie nodded. "I hope so." As he said, he took out a rejuvenating pill from his pocket, divided it into 2, and stuffed it into the mouths of the mother and daughter respectively. The mother and daughter were already about to run out of oil, but as half of the rejuvenating pills were taken in, their bodies immediately began to recover quickly. Charlie felt that the aura of the 2 became stronger and stronger, and he was also felt relieved. At this time, Isaac on the side asked, "Master, what should we do now? Should we just let them leave after they recover, or?" Charlie waved his hand. "If they are allowed to leave here unharmed and enter the public's field of vision directly, the video I just filmed will be meaningless. As long as they are alive, and are not dead, there will be nothing serious. Then, in the eyes of ordinary people, the Su family will not be that evil anymore." After that, Charlie said again, "Let's take them to your hotel and put them under house arrest. Just like Ruoli, they can enjoy the life, but they must not be allowed to communicate with the outside world or leave the room for half a step." "Okay." Isaac nodded and asked, "Then how can I get them out?" Charlie didn't say a word, leaned down, and forced his hands to squeeze the backrests of the 2 rows of seats that were squeezing the mother and daughter apart. As soon as Isaac came up, he was blinded, and then he came back to his senses. He laughed at himself. It's really rare to see how weird it is. When the young master led the sky to destroy the 8 heavenly kings of the Wu family in Changbai Mountain, it was like a miracle. What's more, when Isaac laughed at herself, Charlie had already pushed away the seats that the mother and daughter were squeezed back and forth. Afterwards, he first took Liona out of it, carefully placed her on the ground by the tunnel, and then returned to take Zhiyu out. At this time, Zhiyu was in a very chaotic state. In this chaos, her brain still functions normally, but it has almost disconnected from the outside world. Her world is already in darkness, only thinking is left. And her whole person's thinking has also been completely immersed in her own consciousness. She vaguely remembered that just before she was in a coma, she heard someone talking, and it seemed that someone else appeared here. Moreover, she felt that the voice seemed familiar. That voice seems to be exactly the same as the voice she heard when her brother and she were kidnapped in Japan and were almost killed. And the master of that voice is the benefactor they have been searching for. However, before I closed my eyes, my consciousness was blurred, and I couldn't determine if I had auditory hallucinations. After all, my benefactor's voice circulates in my mind every day. It is normal to have auditory hallucinations in an emergency. Think about it now, the master grandfather was looking for at the time is really accurate. He said that my benefactor's lifestyle is too hard, and I shouldn't continue to look for my benefactor, otherwise it will only be moths fighting the fire. It seems that it is not just talking. It's just that I'm about to die in this city, but I still haven't had a chance to find my benefactor. God let me the moths fly to the fire, don't you even give me a chance to see a fire. Think about it now, she is really unwilling to die here so fruitlessly. Just when Zhiyu's thoughts were unwilling to her immediate death, she suddenly felt that her body that had lost contact seemed to have some feeling. Immediately afterwards, she felt that someone put their hands under her armpits, pulling her body up. At this moment, she felt panic and uneasy, because she didn't know what was going on, and she couldn't tell whether the feeling was real or illusory. She even felt that this might be her soul, trying to leave her body. At this moment, she tried her best to open her eyes. After several efforts, she finally noticed a ray of light in the endless darkness. Vaguely, she saw a man's face. She was surprised and happy in her heart, concentrated all her strength on her eyelids, and worked hard to open them. In the next second, a face of longing and thinking suddenly appeared in her eyes. At this moment, Zhiyu couldn't help exclaiming in her heart, "It's him. It's really him."